Hi, my name's Rose and welcome to building a home recording studio from scratch. Previously, I've been swadding up on equipment, I've been buying some new gear, and I've been speaking to my friend Clive, who's a studio engineer, on how to set everything up. If you missed those episodes, you can head back to issue 1 and 2 to check out what we got up to. So in this issue, I'm going to be learning how to upload a backing track and record a vocal over the top in some music software called Logic. So let's see how it's done. So here I am with Anthony Greaves, who is the head of audio production at the Academy of Contemporary Music. So he's a perfect person to help me through the wilderness that is music technology. Hi Ant.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Oh, good. Oh, very well, thank you.
Good.
Thanks for joining me today. So I've connected all my stuff up, like Clive showed me how to do in the last issue. So now I want to open Logic and upload a backing track and record a vocal track.
Okay.
So what do I need to do?
Okay, well, first thing we need to do is launch Logic.
Okay.
So if you have it set up correctly, hopefully it'll be in your dock at the bottom there.
It is.
Lovely, so just to click on that, that's loaded the program. So we can see on the top left of the screen there where it says Logic Pro, that means that the program is active even though you can't see any windows.
Okay.
What we need to do next is create a project. So this is where we're going to store your actual recording. So if you go to the File menu and click New,
Lovely.
and then go to Empty Project. Okay, and what we've basically done now is Logic has created a new project file which has nothing in it at the moment. It's a blank canvas ready for you to record your vocal onto. Okay. Next thing we need to do is tell Logic how many tracks of audio we're actually going to record. You don't always know in advance, so you can add more later on.
Okay.
But as we know, we're going to use a stereo backing track file. We'll start off by creating a stereo audio file.
Okay.
Audio track rather. So we can see in the window there, it's asking for the number of tracks, so we can leave that as 1.
Okay.
And then if you click on the audio button, that's it. And then it's asked us now what format we'd like. So as the backing track is going to be stereo file, we need to change from mono to stereo. Okay. And we can leave the inputs and outputs the same because we're not going to be recording to that one. And click on Create. And now hopefully you can see there in the Arrange page, which is what we're looking at, you can see something called Audio 1. Yeah. And where we've got, in Logic, we've got time going from left to right, so you can see the bar numbers there. And then going up and down, you'll have the different tracks of audio. So Audio 1 is our first track. Okay, cool. The next thing I'll do is, just to keep everything organised, is actually change the name of that track from being Audio 1 to being Backing Track. Okay. So if you just double click on where it says Audio 1 and type in Backing Track. There we go, and hit Enter. And there we go. So that'll help us keep on top of things as the session gets more complicated. Cool. Okay, so that's the basics done. We now need to create another audio track, which is where you're going to record your vocal. Yeah. So if you click on the little plus icon just above there, there we go. And this time we want a mono audio track. So that's it. So just change that to mono and create. Cool. So why would we have mono for the vocals and stereo for the backing? Well, the difference between mono and stereo, in very simple terms, is that stereo is what you would hear in a typical finished mix. So you'd have things on the left, things on the right, some things in the middle. Yeah. With the vocal, you only have one vocal. You have one mouth, and the sound all comes out in the middle. Yeah. So what we're recording is one channel. Right. Whereas a stereo file is something that has left and right. Cool. Okay. Nice. So I'll rename that. Yeah. Yes, please. Okay. Okay, and then the very next thing I would recommend doing is saving the project. So there's 2 reasons for doing this. Firstly, just to save your progress so far. So if worst case happens and the computer crashes, you know you've got everything saved. Yeah. But the second thing is slightly more important, because when we're working in Logic, we're working with a session file, which we can see here, which is your arrangement and your project as a whole. But whenever you record audio, you're creating a separate audio file. So what we're going to do is save the project now and actually group everything together.
Okay.
So it means that you'll end up with a folder on your computer where all the session file, all the arrangement, and all the audio files are all in one place.
Cool.
So if you ever want to give it to someone else to work on, you can just give them that folder.
Ah, amazing. Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
So if we go to File, Save As.
Yep.
And then if you just browse to a convenient folder. So if you leave it in the Logic folder, which is default,
Yeah.
what I'd recommend doing, just to keep things safe, is create a new folder within that.
Okay.
So if we go to the Logic folder, that's it, and then click on New Folder at the bottom of that window.
Okay.
And then just name it.
Rose 1.
Great. That's it. And then just in the Save As box at the very top, that's where you're going to name the actual session itself. So give it an appropriate name.
Okay.
Great. And then click Save. What I'd recommend doing now, just to check that everything is saved properly, is leaving Logic just for a moment and just looking in the Finder. So if you go down to the dock at the bottom, and just click on the Finder, which is on the very left normally. That's it, just click there. And then if you browse to, I think it's in Music, that's right, and then Logic. And that's all your Logic files there. So if you browse to the folder you created earlier.
Yep.
And then if you open up the session folder, so there we can see you have a session file, which is your arrangement, and a folder for all your audio files. So if you double click on audio files, you'll probably see that it's empty at the moment.
Oh yeah.
But as soon as we've recorded something, it'll appear in there.
Cool.
Okay, so if we go back to Logic.
Yep.
So the next thing to do is to import your backing track.
Yeah.
So do you have a file on the desktop somewhere?
I do, it's on the desktop.
Lovely, good, as planned, that's wonderful. So if you, again, go back to Finder.
Okay.
And find your file. There we go. And what you can do is just drag that file straight onto your backing track. That's right.
Cool.
And it will import it.
So, so this is an MPEG file. Would it matter if it's an MP3 or should it be a WAV or what? Like, is there a special format that it works best for this kind of thing?
It really doesn't matter what format it is. The only difference is going to be the quality of that file in the first place. So an MP3 file is a compressed file, which is good for sharing through the internet. It keeps the file size very small and convenient. But you lose a little bit of quality. Whereas a WAV file or an AIFF are full quality. So that's what you would get on a CD.
Right, okay.
What Logic actually does when you drag that file on is convert it to WAV anyway.
Right, oh, okay. So it will change it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay, so now we've got the file there, and if you drag it back to bar 1, which you've done, lovely. And then if you just hit play, hopefully we should be able to hear it.
Yeah.
I think we can hear that. That's fine.
We can hear that.
You don't need to dance.
Okay.
Okay, so now we know that the backing track's in there, we know you can hear it. The next thing to do is to enable your vocal track.
Okay.
So you do that by, if you go to the Vox track that you've created there, you see a little R button.
Yeah.
Letter R. So if you just click on that. Okay, that is now record armed the track, and you can see a little meter has appeared on the left hand side. And that is basically showing how loud the input signal is from the microphone that you've connected.
Okay.
So when you go up to the microphone, you start singing. I'll stay here and keep an eye on that level and make sure that we can hear everything you're saying, singing, and that it's not going too loud.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so if you go over to the microphone, pop your headphones on, and we'll get recording. Okay, so now Rose is at the microphone. I'm just going to do a couple of basic checks to ensure that we've got the right signal coming through. So the microphone is connected into this Focusrite interface, into channel 1. What we have next to it is a gain knob. Basically that adjusts the amount of level that can come from the microphone into Logic. So Rose is at the microphone. So Rose, if you could give me a little bit of level, just so that we can see we've got something coming in.
1, 2, check, check, check.
Okay, we can actually see on the interface there it's lighting up just to let us know that there is something coming in, which is always good. And then if we go into Logic and look at the meter on the screen, what we're aiming for is for the level to be around about 3/4 of the way up. If it's going into the red, that means it's distorting and it's going to sound bad. If it's too low, it might not be loud enough and the quality suffers. So yeah, if we aim for about 3/4 of the way up, adjust the gain knob until we get to such a point where it's at the right level throughout. It's always good to have a couple of run-throughs and sometimes record the rehearsal so that you can actually get the level just right. Okay, so we know it's coming into input 1. So on Logic, we just need to ensure that the channel itself, the track itself, is actually recording from the right input. So if we hold down on where it says input and then go to input 1, which is already set up perfect. That's it. And then we can see the level appearing on the screen next to the Vox channel, and we record arm, so we're ready to go.
Feeling my way through the darkness, guided by a beating heart. I can tell where the journey will end, but I know where to start. They tell me I'm too young to understand. They say I'm caught up in a dream. Oh, life will pass me by if I don't open up my eyes. Well, it's fine by me. Oh, thanks.
Okay, so now we've got your recording there.
Yep.
What we need to do next is basically just adjust some levels, which is getting the mix between the backing track and your new vocal. Okay. So what we'll do there is, if you click on the mixer button at the bottom of the screen, yep. And now you can see the two faders, one which is the backing track and one which is the vocal. Yep. And what you can do is adjust the level of those two until it sounds right. What you want to aim for is for the vocal to be clear so you can hear every single word, but not too loud so it doesn't sound unnatural and stuck on. Yeah, okay. Okay, now we've got a rough mix there. What we'll do is add a little bit of sparkle. So if you go onto the inserts, higher up on the vocal channel, little box just there, yeah. And then if you go down to reverb, yeah. And silver verb, and then mono to stereo. There we go. And what this plugin does is it adds echo, adds a little bit of room around your vocal, so it sounds more natural. Generally, most commercial music has some sort of reverb on it, so you're always going to hear an effect like this. As soon as you press play, I'm sure you'll recognise the effect. Okay, so we don't need to change any settings there. Okay. What we can see is that the mix control is set at around 30%. That's a control you might want to adjust to vary the amount of reverb that you hear on your vocal. Any sound engineers watching will know that this isn't the best way of doing it, but bearing in mind that we're beginners today, then we're going to just work with this. Okay. Sounds good.
They tell me I'm too young to understand. They say I'm caught up in a dream. They tell me I'm too young to understand. They say I'm caught up in a dream.
Okay, so if you close that down, and as you play your track, you can adjust the levels again, perhaps, just to get it sitting just right, make any minor, final changes that you want to make. Okay, and if we think we're ready, let's have a listen, see what it sounds like.
Feeling my way through the darkness, guided by a beating heart. I can't tell where the journey will end, but I'm ready to start. They tell me I'm too young to understand. They say I'm caught up in a dream. Well, life will pass me by if I don't open up my eyes.
Okay, so now we've got a track that we are happy with, it's finished, it's ready, you're proud of it, you want the world to hear it. Yeah. What we're going to do is bounce it down to a stereo file. So this stereo file is the sort of file that you would share among your friends or put on iTunes or give to people so that they can hear on their iPods or CDs or whatever. Okay. Okay, so the way we do that is we go up to the File menu at the very top and then down to Bounce. And this will open up the bounce dialog. And what we want to do first is check the start and end point is correct. So if you go down to the sort of bottom left there, that's right. The start should always be bar 1 beat 1, as it's normally set to by default. And the end should be anywhere beyond the end of the song.
Okay.
So normally it will default to the last thing in the song anyway, but just check that that number is higher than the latest event in the song.
Okay.
Okay, and then if we go up to the destination dialog just above that, we can see that there are different file formats that you can create. PCM is what we were talking about earlier, which is WAV or AIF quality, which is the full quality that you get on CDs. MP3 is the more commonly shared, reasonable file size. Normally it'd be around about 4 or 5 megabytes. So it's a good size to share around on the internet, email, or on iPods, iPhones, all that sort of thing.
Okay.
Okay, so if you uncheck everything but the MP3 option, very good. And then if we go up to the file itself, let's name the file appropriately first. So if you name it the name of the song, and then if you just add the word mix at the end, just so we know that this is the final version.
Okay.
And then in the dialog just underneath that, we just need to make sure it's going into the right folder. So if you just click on there, we'll just check where it's sending the file. And we can see that it's in your Wake Me Up demo folder, and it's created a folder called Bounces. Okay, so that's brilliant. That's done exactly what we want it to do. Okay, and then just click on Bounce.
It's bouncing.
Okay, so what we want to do now is just check that that file is everything we expect it to be, that it's the right mix and there's no errors on there or problems or flaws at all.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll do that by leaving Logic. So if you go up to the Logic menu at the very top and then to quit Logic Pro.
Okay.
And don't forget to save before you leave.
Okay.
And then if you browse in the Finder, if you browse to the appropriate folder that you created earlier for your track, that's it, so into Music, and then Logic, and then Rose, Wake Me Up Demo, and then you can see there the Bounces folder that is created for us. And then if we go in there, we can see Wake Me Up Mix.mp3, so there's your final mix file.
Great.
Okay, so now if we want to listen to that just to check it's all okay, if you just click on the file and press the space bar, it will automatically preview the file for you. So it will automatically play it through your computer speakers. So have a listen through and check that everything is as it should be.
Great.
What sound engineers tend to do, because there's so many different systems of playback out there, you can create a file like this in a £1 million studio, but at the end of the day, it's being played back on a car stereo or a really expensive hi-fi system, or just a pair of little cheap iPod headphones. So the best thing to do is actually check your file on different things and actually see how it sounds. And if it sounds different, then you might want to come back to your file and make a few changes to your mix.
Sense.
Yeah. So what I would suggest doing is copying that file, putting it onto your iPod or iPhone, or creating a CD perhaps so that you can play in your car, and then just listen to it in lots of different places, and that will give you an idea of how other people will hear it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So presumably that's not a good enough take to sort of send out to radio stations and things like that.
Well, it was an amazing take.
Thanks.
I mean, clearly a very talented performer. No, I mean, what we were trying to do there was a demo. It was a basic demo. It's really so that you can share your talent with a greater audience. And that greater audience might just be your friends, it might be your mum and dad, but it might also be record label executives who want to give you money to go into a proper studio and do a more polished version.
Basically it's good enough as an example of what my voice is, better than singing into an iPhone. Exactly,
yeah. And you can achieve great things with a computer and Logic or other software. You can get a very polished result with the right skills. And really it's just about practice, learning technique. And if you want to learn more about things like that, then you come to do a course at somewhere like the Academy of Contemporary Music, or other schools or colleges local to you. And of course there's a wealth of resources on YouTube and online. There's so many Logic users out there that just upload themselves talking through what they're doing. So you can learn through a lot that way.
Okay, so I've now finished my recording and I have an MP3 ready to send off to anybody I want via email, or I could upload it onto the internet into some form of cloud for people to listen to. So next time I'm going to be chatting to some top session singers about how they use music technology in their work and how it benefits them. So I will see you then.